Blast me to Kjalma's skull! It's time for the Mad Merlins Warhammer 40,000 Imperium Journey, Issue 79, Part 2, Battle Report. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Mad Merlins Warhammer 40,000 Imperium Journey. So we're continuing with Issue 79 today, and we have a big battle report to go over. So, what we'll do in this episode, we'll take a look at the mission details, the 2 army lists I'll be using, and then of course we'll get into the game. But before we do any of that, don't forget to of course like the video if you're enjoying the Imperium Journey content, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Sorry, I got distracted there. And of course, don't forget to check all my links in the description down below, including the Mad Merlins Patreon. So, without further ado then, let's dive into what's left of issue 79 and take a look at the mission and then the 2 army lists I'll be using. So, here we have our mission, and it is Assaulting the Gate. So, this is the 20th page, but 19th mission in the veteran pack, and it is the prelude to the final conflict, which will see Roboute Guilliman take to the field. So there's a nice lot of background for this mission, detailing each of the factions on the Imperium side and their importance in the battle, and we have Guilliman's plan being put into action as well. So the actual mission is hammerblow, and we have quite a extensive mission. So first and foremost, we have objective markers. The Necron player is a defender and player A. They must place, I think it's 8 objective markers. Yep. Anywhere on the battlefield, only 4 of these can be set up in their own deployment zone. The rest must be set up on the other half of the battlefield. They can't be more than 9 inches, must be more than 9 inches from an edge and more than 9 from other objective markers. And the ones set up outside the deployment zone must be more than 3 from the defender's deployment zone to stop them posing a threat to them. But the objective markers are all considered to be controlled by the Necrons until such a time as the Space Marines take control of them. In order to do that, the Space Marines have the plant banner action, or the Imperium player, not Space Marines. So they are player B and the attacker, and you can do the action as many times as you have units on different objective markers or markers that don't have the banner raised already. I have a bunch of banner markers which I've made up to resemble the objectives being claimed, so I'll be using them in the battle report. I'll show you them a little later. And yeah, each unit must be in range of a different objective marker and one that does not have your banner already raised on it. Cannot start the objective action while there are enemy units in range, as usual. The action is completed at the end of your turn. If it's completed, that objective marker is said to have your banner on it, and that will remain under your control and even after you have moved away or even the unit has been destroyed. So very beneficial. We also have sustained assault, so this benefits the Imperium player. At the end of their movement phase, they roll a d6, adding 1 to the result for a unit if it has the troops battlefield roll. Then on a 6+, you can set up an identical unit that was destroyed, and it counts as having arrived from strategic reserves. So you can set it up, I believe, on any battlefield edge, much like the normal rules for strategic reserve. You can also, at the end of any of your turns, remove units from the battlefield that have a quarter or less of the starting number of models, or in case of single models, have a quarter or less of their starting wounds, and that counts as having been destroyed. And you can then do the d6 roll for them and see if they come back. Primary objectives is hold at all costs. So at the end of the battle, each player scores 15 points even for each objective that they control. And they have a secondary objective, so good one for both sides really. What we do is you keep a tally of each model you destroyed, adding 1 to the tally, 10 if it has a wounds characteristic of 10 or more. A model can, if it is resurrected, of course, add several amount of points to the tally. At the end of the battle, divide the tally points by 10, and then the result is the number of victory points you score. So, as there's going to be a lot of models in the opposing armies, there's going to be a lot of points up for grabs. And finally, we see our deployment map. So, player A, the Necrons, have an entire half of the battlefield as their deployment zone. Then we have a 12-inch no man's land, and then player B has the remaining area for their deployment zone there. Before we get into the armies, let's take a look at the future issues. As we can see here, the Noctilith pylon is being built and constructed, and Imperium forces are bringing in some extra reinforcements in the form of a Redemptor Dreadnought, Paragon Warsuits, Skitarii Marshal, and Kyria Draxus, a Inquisitor Lord. And the Necrons have brought some extra power from the Destroyer cult with a Hexmark Destroyer and Illuminor Zaras of the Cryptex. So, I will be doing coverage for each of these issues, but I want to try and build and paint everything before I start doing any game coverage. But I will plan to do that. I may use 10th edition, as I have mentioned before, but we'll see how things go. It might be a good idea just to keep using Imperium for the moment and running with 9th. So the next issue then is Roboute Guilliman Part 2. So we get the final components to build him, and we get the paint guide as well, and his datasheet, and the final mission for the Veteran Mission Pack. And then we have issue 81, our first Paragon Warsuit, building and paint guides, plus the rules are in the issue as well. And we start a brand new mission pack, which is a campaign mission pack. So like I said, I'm going to try and build and paint everything from these 10 bonus issues. But I'm going to only cover the content and the frames in videos up until the point everything is built and painted. Then I will do a campaign where I play through each of the missions in turn, keeping track of the score and the campaign. There's a really nice campaign system which I'll show off. It comes with the first issue. So when we get around to doing issue 81, I will show everything off and we'll get around to doing that. Yeah. There we go. Right, let's start taking a look at the armies. We'll look at the Space Marine Imperium force first, and I'll also bring over those objective markers for you to have a look at. So here we have my Imperium detachment of 75 power. And here at the front you see my little banners. So each one is just a Space Marine back banner from a old tactical squad I've had plenty of in my time collecting Warhammer. And yeah, I've got a few little bits of basing detail there. I've got a Necron Scarab crawling over a rock, Battle Sister helmet, spare chainsword from Assault Intercessor, a defeated Necron there, a Lieutenant helmet there, a defeated Triarch Praetorian, and more Battle Sister stuff, including a ripped to pieces helmet and a holster there as well. So yeah, I was meant to make 8, but for some reason I got it into my head that I needed only 6, so I only have 6 at the moment. But I don't think we'll be getting to possibly the harder to reach battle objective markers anyway. I think those Necrons are going to put up quite a fight. But we have quite a lot to bring against them. So, starting off the Warlord then, we have Calgar there leading the army. We have a Primaris Captain, a Primaris Lieutenant, and a Canoness. The Canoness is backed up with 10 Battle Sisters, just because I want to get some extra bodies and they're nice and cheap. We have 10 Infiltrators, 5 Assault Intercessors, 10 Assault Intercessors, the Eliminators, Victrix Guard, Outriders, and the Invader ATV. So, thinking behind this army is I'm probably going to split the Phobos squads and conceal them in no man's land positions. Same possibly the Eliminators, conceal them in a position where they can get some sniper fire down on the enemy. The Assault Intercessors, one big squad will stick with Calgar, while the other smaller squad will go with the Captain, and the Lieutenant will stick with Calgar and the Victrix Guard as well. So the Canoness will run up behind with the Battle Sisters and will be the main focus on controlling the objectives that are closer to me, while the Space Marines form the hammerblow, as it were. And the Invader and the Outriders will be a fast-moving flanking force to the army. So yeah, pretty good. Not much I can say. Tactics-wise, like I said, is going to be controlling those objectives and taking the fight to the Necrons as best I can. So, oh yeah, one last thing. The Canoness has, of course, the Emperor's Grace, one of my favourite powers that gives her the ability to heal if she is injured. Right, speaking of Necrons then, let's move over to the Necrons, and I actually have to bring in some extra Necrons from my older Necron collection, as I've decided to take a squad of 20 and a squad of 10 Necron warriors. And here's my 75 power of Necrons, and as you can see, it's a big lot of infantry. So we'll start with the characters. We have the Catacomb Command Barge there. We also have a generic Overlord on foot, who is going to be the Warlord in this instance, as the Command Barge is going to be sitting back and supporting. Much to his annoyance, he wants to get up close and fighty. But this Overlord, having been in the battle longer, is being a bit over commanding. So yeah, he has decided to take control of the entire army and be the Warlord himself. We also have the Royal Warden here and a Chronomancer who has brought along his nanomines to interfere with the Imperium's movement. So as I said, there is 20 warriors with Gor's Flayer, 10 over here with Gor's Reaper, 10 Immortals, 2 squads of 5 Lich Guard, a Canoptic Reanimator, and finally some big guns in the form of a Locust Heavy Destroyer. So yeah, luckily the mission dictates that all objectives are mine anyway, so all I got to do is stop the Imperium from breaking through and taking back as many objectives as possible. I think as I get to choose where to go, I'm going to deploy the 4 that I can deploy in my battle zone behind my actual army, and keeping at least one or 2 squads back to help pose a threat to anybody coming in via infiltration or outflanking. And yeah, the rest of the force will march forward and take the fight to the Imperium, saying, "Get off my doorstep, please." So yeah, there we have it. I am going to go set up the battlefield, and I will see you shortly. Here we are, all deployed and ready to begin a pretty momentous battle. So we'll go over deployment first before we have our dramatic reading, and then we'll get into first turn and battle preparations. So, objectives, I've got 4 in the Necron deployment zone, 2 up at the back, 2 more forward. Then the other 4 are pretty equally spaced out through no man's land. Starting with the Necrons then, we've got the Chronomancer with the 20 warriors, the Reanimator and Locust Heavy Destroyer. Then we got the Overlord on Command Barge with the Lich Guard behind. 10 warriors down here, 10 Immortals with the Royal Warden, the other 5 Lich Guard and the Warlord Overlord finally there. For the Imperial deployment, I've tried to do my best with my plan of putting things into concealed positions, but I can't deploy closer than 9 inches. So I have got the 2 squads of 5, or the 1 squad of 10 broken into 2 5s of the infiltrators there and there, ready to move on to their objectives. The eliminators there, 10 assault intercessors, Calgar, the Victrix Guard, and the lieutenant here. Battle Sisters and the Canoness, 5 intercessors with the captain, and then the Outriders and the Invader over on the far flank. So yeah, it's going to be hard pressed to try and win, but we'll see what we can do. Yeah, I'm going to both armies go for the mission specific secondary. Eliminate annihilation, so we're going to get some bonus points for the amount of things we kill, which could benefit the Necrons more than the Space Marines, as the Space Marines have that awesome revival ability for this mission. So with that covered, let's go straight into our dramatic reading before we do our pre-game abilities, etc. Assaulting the gate. The Necron stronghold has been breached and the Dolmen Gate lies within reach. Imperial High Command has committed the remainder of their available strength, pouring more assets into the tomb in order to cut a path to the objective. The Necron's portal continues to spit forth reinforcements at an alarming rate. This final desperate assault may be pushed back if the Necrons are to crush their human foes and bring the Ramesses back into their stellar empire. Overseeing the legions, the overlords of the Necron invasion force remain confident of victory. The humans' final assault reeks of desperation. After all, armies comprised of living warriors cannot hope to reinforce as swiftly as those formed of living metal automatons. Still, only by leading from the front can ultimate victory be assured. The Primarch's plan. On occasion, only brute force and belligerence can win the day. The Necrons are all entrenched and superior in number to their Imperial foes. Utilizing a plan laid down by Guilliman himself, Imperial Command hopes to draw the foe into a climactic battle, allowing a small force to infiltrate and destroy the Dolmen Gate. At the start of the game, the Space Marine half of the Imperium force has set itself to devastate a doctrine, whilst the Battle Sisters are only initiating the one Sacred Rite, and this one being Divine Guidance, as I've only got that small, rather ranged focus force of the Battle Sisters. The Necrons, whether they get first turn or not, are sticking with Protocol of the Eternal Guardian and going with the extra benefit of cover, providing they don't move. Speaking of first turn, let's roll off to see who gets it. And the Imperium pinch it with a 3. So, with that, let's head into Imperium turn 1. So, we'll gain a command point going up to 15. And our miracle dice is a 1. Here we go then with the Imperium's first turn. End of movement phase, the Imperium have moved up, taking 3 objectives, and the 2 infiltrator units and the battle sister unit have started doing the action on those objectives. I forgot to move the assault intercessors and captain there. I'll do that off camera before the shooting phase. So with that, I've also dropped 2 command points for Defenders of the Faith to give them an extra bit of protection. With that then, we'll move on to the shooting phase, and it'll just be the assault intercessors and the bikers. Pretty effective shooting phase, resulting in 4 dead immortals and 5 dead warriors from the big 20 over there. So moving on to the charge phase then, it will be the assault intercessors, and actually I don't know, I might not. See how they do. If they fail, it's no big loss. And I'll try to charge the bikes and outrider invader in as well. And it's been a devastating first turn. So yeah, we're still in the first turn, but the Space Marines have done a massive amount of damage. 6 immortals are now dead, and over half that unit of warriors are now dead. So it's up to the Necrons whether they want to drop their resurrection orbs first turn. Yeah, it's been pretty devastating. I mean, Calgar got really lucky making a 12-inch charge without a reroll. Yeah. Ultramar smiles upon me today. But end of our turn then, and we get 1, 2, 3 banners, and it's moving on to Necron's turn 1. Alright, command and movement phase for Necron's turn 1. It hasn't been a lot. So I started doing command abilities. So first off, Nano Scarabs from the Reanimator onto the Warriors. Then the Chronometron onto the Warriors. Then I did the Resurrection Orb from the Command Barge onto the Warriors. And I managed to get a Mighty 7 back. Moving over then, I did the other Resurrection Orb on the Immortals, who got 2 back. And then the Adaptive Strategy from the Royal Warden let the Immortals fall back and ready to shoot the Outriders. Then for the rest of the movement phase, it was just Lich Guard moving up, ready for charging. And the Command Barge zoomed over as well, ready to intercept those units fallen behind. So moving on then to Necron shooting phase. End of the Necron shooting phase then, and we've not done a lot of damage. We have killed 1 Victrix Guard, 3 Battle Sisters, 1.5 Outriders technically, and we've put 1 wound on one of the infiltrators from the Heavy Destroyer. But we are now moving on to the charge phase, and it's going to be quite a lot of charges. So we'll have the Immortals, the Lich Guard, the Overlord, Royal Warden, the Overlord and Command Barge, and maybe I'll get that Reanimator stuck in as well. So end of the Necron's turn, and the assaults haven't gone too well. They actually lost the Reanimator that charged into Calgar, as Calgar punched it to pieces. Yeah, other than that, we've lost 2 assault intercessors. And that was it. But looking at the tally points, the Imperium's kind of in the lead with 40 points to 7. Yeah, not looking terribly good at the moment. But there's still plenty more to play for, as this was only turn 1. So let's head back to the dashboard and get started for turn 2. So, beginning of turn 2, Imperium will gain a command point, a miracle dice of 6. We won't add points yet for victory points, as all of it is pretty much endgame points. We are moving out of the Devastator Doctrine and into the Tactical. And for the Necrons, we are going for the Protocol of Vengeful Stars with the extra AP on armor penetration, though there isn't actually going to be a lot of shooting. I'm kind of thinking the melee one would have been a little better. But here we go then with Imperium Turn 2. End of Imperium Movement Phase 2, we have the remaining Victrix Guard making a dash for Objective 5, ready to plant a banner. He's just within 3, so he's going to start the action in the movement phase. The Eliminators have moved around to get a line of sight on the Chronomancer there. Assault Intercessors and Captain are squeezing up to go into the Lich Guard. And the Outriders over at the back there used hit and run warfare, so they fell back. And now they're going to open up onto the Immortals. And over here, the Eliminators moved up on top just so they get their guns to bear. And I forgot to move those guys, but they're fine. They're alive, that's the main thing. So we're going to move on to Imperium's shooting phase. End of the shooting phase, and it hasn't gone as well as first turn. We've only done a single wound to the Chronomancer. We did do one wound by a bolt pistol from the Invader and the Lich Guard, and we killed 2 Immortals but 1 reanimated. And down here we killed 3 but 3 reanimated. Did they? No, 1 died, sorry. Actually, no, sorry. They passed their saves. But the one that failed did reanimate. I'm forgetting my own game at this rate. But yeah, moving on then to the charge and fight phase. And it's only going to be the 1 charge, which is these guys over here. So yeah, here we go. End of Imperium Turn 2, and surprisingly, there's still a fair bit alive. The big 20 warriors have finally fell. 14 wounds went through, and they failed 9 saves, which wiped the unit out, meaning reanimation protocols weren't able to activate. Also, end of the turn, my banner goes up on Objective 5 from the Victrix Guard. And it's moving on to the Necron's turn. It's still a pretty much stalemate here in the centre. Thanks to reanimation protocols, Canoness managed to kill 1, that was it. And the Overlord finished off the Invader ATV, but during my next movement phase I can bring that back. But yeah, it's moving on to the Necron's turn, and we'll see how deadly things go for them. End of Necron shooting phase, because movement phase was actually very little. I decided to skip straight to that. So we've killed 1 Assault Intercessor and 1 Bike, scoring us 2 extra points, pushing us up to 11. So sadly things aren't looking very good for the Necrons. I was hoping that Outrider would have been destroyed, but looks like he's going to survive long enough to go place another banner on Objective 3 there. But moving on to the Assault phase, we've got the Lich Guard, Chronomancer into the Assault Intercessors, the Overlords joining the Lich Guard. That'll be it. End of Necron's turn 2, and it's not looking very good. There's literally nothing the Necrons can do to try and pull points back, because they can't actually do the plant banner action to retake objectives. they don't have the units to try and recapture any objectives. So I'm calling the game there, because currently the scores are Imperium 67 to Necron's 62. So it's a 5-point difference, but I don't think that's going to change much, because Imperium's turn, we're going to get hopefully some reinforcements onto the battlefield. The Outrider over there is going to plant another banner, which takes 15 points off the Necrons and adds 15 points to the Space Marines. And maybe I can get a unit over to another objective and claim it. Who knows? But I'm going to call it there. But let's just see what units would have returned for the Imperium. So we'll go over to the dashboard. So, the 5-man Assault Intercessors don't come back. The Invader doesn't come back. And I think that's actually... Oh, and a Lieutenant doesn't come back. So nobody came back this turn. But yeah, like I said, I'm going to call it there. 67 points to 62, give or take 15 points. So I'm going to call it, like I said, go and call the game there, and that will be it. So thank you all very much for watching. If you think I deserve it, please give this video a like, and if you are enjoying the content, don't forget to also subscribe to the channel as well. We only have one battle left of the Imperium main issue run, and then we're going to go into the 10-issue campaign, which I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to do, but I'm definitely going to enjoy having fun with that anyway. So we'll see the big Bobby G turn up in the next battle report as he leads the Imperium's 100-point army against the Necron 100-point army, with the special duel in the center against the Overlord and the Captain. So stay tuned for that. There's going to be a fun battle report, and I'm going to have fun filming it. So thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time on the Imperium Journey. Goodbye.